Round, almond, or googly, your peepers are pretty important. Your eyes are a part of your brain. No, your eyes are your brain. Go look in the mirror. Look at your eyes. Notice the iris, notice the pupil dilating as you move in and out. That is your brain looking at itself. Speaking of eyes and brains and jars are a staple of Hollywood sci-fi. As long as people have known that brains are the thinky part, we've fantasized about separating them from the not thinky parts. This cliche is in everything. I mean, there's an entire expansion in New Vegas about helping a bunch of scientists who put their brains in jars.
What if it's brain? We scooped that out.
But here's the weird part. If those were anatomically correct, those eyes would be on the inside of the jar, not the outside. Saying your eyes aren't your brain is like saying your teeth aren't your skeleton. Just as much as you've got spooky, scary munchers in your mouth, your brain's got eyes on the front of it.
Two? Wait, that just kind of came out on its own.
Yeah, that slipped right out, huh?
I barely pulled that.
Whether you realized it or not, you can lick your skeleton and touch your brain. What a lovely thought. But what does any of this have to do with Oshi-No-Ko? Well, give me a minute, I'm getting to that part. But look at these eyes. They're so detailed. Going from manga to anime is always a challenge, but just look at the quality of this transition. It's incredibly well done, and their eyes are your clue to everything. The eyes are the most important part. I mean, look at her. She's got stars in her eyes. The eyes are Hollywood's favorite part of the brain. Sultry, sadistic, sanguine, the eyes can lock the audience into a character's emotions or thoughts. The eyes are so important that there's entire shot compositions built around emphasizing the eyes. The ultra close-up, the Shatner light, the pupil zoom. If you've been to the movies, you've seen these. The Shatner light in particular is one of my favorites. It's a cliche now, but it's a cliche for a reason. It used to work really, really well, and still does. But the poor implementations and the overuse of it made it kitschy. But this effect, used sparingly, can still have the effect of locking the audience into a character's thoughts. It's still a great momentum shot. The anime equivalent of the Shatner light is the Eyebox cutaway, or the ultra-stylized close-up. I don't need to discuss examples for these because literally any character-oriented action scene from the last decade will have one of these cuts. Sometimes it's varied a little bit, maybe blowing out the lens angle or draining the colors, but the fundamental shot composition is all the same. Beyond specific shots and compositions, though, the eyes sometimes can be all the story needs to make a character compelling. One of the best examples of this comes from Ryan Literally Me Gosling's performance in Drive. If you've not seen Drive, do yourself a favor and see Drive. The part of this movie that hammers my eye point home is in the script. In an hour and 41-minute runtime, the main character of this movie speaks 891 words. For reference, the word count in this script at this line is about 70% of the way there. The beauty of a movie or a show may be in the eye of the beholder, but something that isn't is the medium. And animation, in particular, makes the nuances of eyes incredibly difficult. Anime, in particular, makes this problem hard because of the style of the characters. The exaggerated proportions and colossal facial features are meant to compensate for the lack of nuance that an animator can fit on a character's face who has to be remade from scratch 24 times for a single second of film. And that way, the big eyes and floating eyebrows are a lot like gloves. They're like gloves in that early on in animation, specifically at Disney, they needed a way to make the hands of their characters pop. Mickey having black fur and being shown in black and white meant that his hands would seem to phase out of existence anytime they crossed his body. The solution was bright white gloves, and they gave him 4 fingers to simplify the drawing. The exaggerated features in Eastern animation accomplished the same thing as the gloves. By opting for simplified, high-contrast approximations of features, as opposed to trying to cram detail into the character design, they save not only the sanity of the animators, but also ease the audience's viewing experience. And Oshi-No-Ko seems to do the exact opposite. They don't abandon the exaggerated proportions or floating eyebrows. It's still an anime. I mean, the plot's just as schizophrenic as any other isekai, but where they do stray from the norm is right there, in the eyes. Why? If you've ever been to a classical play, you've seen a soliloquy. This is where a character stands in the middle of the stage, usually with a spotlight on them, and waxes poetic about how they're feeling and thinking about the current situation.
To be or not to be.
Why do they do this? Nobody does this in real life, and if you did do this, somebody would put you in a loony bin. The reason the playwrights do this is to keep the audience informed as to the internal world of the characters. Because as much fun as it is for the audience to figure out the story for themselves as it goes along, that process can't happen if the audience is completely out in the cold as to what's going on inside of all the characters' heads. In Oshi-No-Ko, they use the eyes, specifically those stars. Did you notice that every time the characters are lying, the stars glow? Or that every time they're angry, they turn black? Those stars are the audience's key to the character's internal world, and it's a pretty genius thematic device. Deception, anger, dread, love, all of them are wrapped into those stars. What better way of overcoming the limitations of your medium by punching up a classic? In every scene our main characters are in, the stars scream, "Look me in the eyes. This is what I really think." It's a cliche that the eyes are the window to the soul, or that you can read someone's intentions with their eyes. There is some truth to it, but it's overstated. However, when it comes to narrative and story, especially a visual one, leaning on cliches can be a phenomenal tool for pulling the audience along your character's journey. And that is where Oshi-No-Ko bucks the standard and pushes itself into another league. There's also definitely some symbolism in the fact that each of Ai's kids only have one starry eye, but I haven't decided what I think that means yet. If you've got any ideas, let me know. The character's eyes in Oshi-No-Ko are cool looking, but within that character design is an entire history of techniques and animation, methods and writing and directing. Everyone and their mother has talked about how the eyes look on the screen, but nobody has explained why. So later this week, when that last episode airs, and we get a shot of the character looking into the camera, and those stars in their eyes are center stage, hopefully now you'll see more than just some pretty drawings on a screen.